Your parents wouldn't have been able to give you all the necessary guidelines when you were young or even now. Some of you would have been deprived of all these things. Now you need to pay attention to this video before coming into a conclusion. My name is Rini Rose Matthew. I'm a CELTA certified tutor and also an author. If you're new to this channel, welcome, and please take a look at all the other videos so that you get an idea of what I'm trying to convey here. Today's topic: education begins at home. I know that most of you will agree to this because yes, when I say education, it's not just about the degree and the qualification, the formal education that you have been through all these years. And sometimes when you even work with a particular company or an organization, it educates you. It's all about your behavior, and education begins at home, informally. Let's take a look at all these points, because even before beginning a skill, whether you go to a tutor, an educator, a trainer, or whoever it is, you need to set your mind, and these are basic things that you can always have on your checklist. So make sure that you have some of these at least, so that the trainer, tutor, or the educator can groom you towards the development of a skill. Now let us delve into the topic, and are you ready? The first point. I told you that education begins at home. There are a lot of things that we get to hear. We grow up learning from our parents, or even from our aunts, uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers, and they try to give you what they have learned, what they have got from their parents probably, or from their environment, and some of them could be misleading. Now I'm not against anyone here, but today we speak about toxicity, we speak about lack of awareness. I don't think any parent will do it deliberately. They always want the best for their children. Of course, there's another segment, there's another side which is known as toxic parenting, and psychologists and even great people, counselors speak about this, but let's keep that aside. I've also done a video on it after consulting with experts, but today it's all about what you could have on your checklist. I've written a lot of points here. The first point is, many people are not given the environment as a child to listen. Even when children speak, I think it's important for you to tell them to wait before you begin speaking. First thing is, you have to give them time to speak. You need to listen to children. That's the first point. If you don't practice this at home, as parents, as teachers, and even as children themselves, just consider missing out on a friend who was really dear to you just because you were not able to listen to that person. What is the use of regretting later about it in life? So as children, learn to listen. And even as parents, I think you have to be a role model when it comes to listening. Listen to them, because when you listen, you open your mind. It's just like opening your brain, not literally where you cut open your brain, but you comprehend, observe what's happening, and that will help you to sequence your thoughts in a better way. So don't you think it's important to listen and to pay attention before you give the necessary guidelines? So listening is important, because when you don't listen, you can give wrong guidelines. You may end up misleading the child or another person, even if it's an adult. The second point, it's all about courtesy. So even when we have a conversation during the training session, all my learners are so sweet. Even if they miss out on the internet, even if there is a technical glitch, we tell each other, we inform, sorry ma'am, sorry sir, we were not able to catch up. So it's all about courtesy. So even when you have a conversation with someone in real life, it is part of courtesy to inform if there is some urgency on the other side. Sometimes it's not possible because you may have to just run and catch up with the urgency. You may have your family members or someone who's desperate trying to connect with you, where you may not be in a position to inform the other person. But later, always you will have 2 seconds, 3 seconds to say, I'm sorry, I was in an urgent situation. And if required, if you have the time, you can elaborate. Otherwise, just leave it at that. But courtesy is updating, informing, and also letting the other person know that you may not be available to listen because of this reason. Even if you don't give the reason, inform that, oh, we have been speaking for some time, but I think I may not be able to prolong the conversation because of so and so reason. It's just courtesy. It is just known as the basic behavioral pattern instead of just leaving. I'm not speaking about ghosting here, because today we get to hear about ghosting in relationship, but it's just about leaving abruptly. It's part of the time that you've taken there, and just paying respect to the person, saying, I'll be right back, how much time it'll take. The next point under courtesy is assumptions and presumptions. Even before you make an attempt, how can you assume? We have a lot of people when it comes to the English language learning and teaching platforms. Even before experiencing something, do not assume, thinking that everything is like this, everybody is like that. Who are you to assume? I mean, maybe that's your way of doing it, but it's always important to find out, gather resources, gather information before reaching a conclusion, because sometimes your parents also mislead you by assuming things. It happens in many families. There should be a ground reason. As parents, as teachers, you need to give validation. At least try to explain the trajectory of a problem, an issue, or why you're not allowing a child to go somewhere. Give the reason. Because otherwise you are giving all the space to the child to assume later in future, and that is going to mislead the child. Assumptions and presumptions are common among children, and also it's common among adults, and that can really ruin you, especially when you try developing a skill. I have seen a lot of learners on different platforms who take pleasure and pride in assuming things. I've already told you that fame doesn't help you reach anywhere. Analysis is very important when it comes to language, communication. If you are not able to analyze, you will land up in trouble. You know something? Thinking takes an extra effort. It's a verb when it comes to language, but thought happens just like that. It happens instantly. And I read a book recently, and this is the book. There the author beautifully says that when you are in union with the infinite intelligence, you will always have thoughts and do it randomly. You will not have the time to think. I'm not saying you shouldn't think before doing something. Finding out different obstacles, finding out different ways in which you cling to the past and sometimes get overexcited, and when you overdo things about the future, that's not going to help you in any way. So thinking itself takes a lot of effort, but when you have the thought, just do it. So when you begin doing something, you don't have to necessarily exhaust all your energy to just keep thinking. Think without realizing that the thought itself is for a productive reason. It's for a meaningful purpose. So when you know that something is meaningful, just do it. That is the meaning of thought here in this book. Next is about gender boundaries. Of course, we are living in a kind of semi-modern society, and in certain places it's already post-modern, and we know many things today, and too much of knowledge can also spoil the entire broth of life. Like, it's a beautiful broth in the right consistency, which allows you to enjoy the life to its fullest. When that's the case, there are a lot of parents who give the wrong ideas when it comes to gender. I'm not speaking about gender inequality and such kind of heavy topics, but it's all about setting boundaries. We generally speak about this. There are people who say men shouldn't cry, boys don't cry. It shows that you're weak. I don't think it's weak when you cry. It's weak when you don't rise up, or it shows that you are not able to face something. You can take your time. As a human being, you will cry, and it's okay to cry, to feel down, to feel vexed up, to get angry, to get frustrated. But the courage is to always rise up. And when you rise up, you may not be necessarily liked by everyone. You should have the courage to be disliked. There's a beautiful book on that. The courage to be disliked. It's not about challenging everyone. It's all about unwilling to cling to the past and not to be always too anxious about your future. See, all these barriers are there, all these thought processes are something that we keep listening to, we keep hearing as children, and then we grow up with the wrong ideas. So there you have assumptions that creep in naturally into the mind and the mindset of a child. So when it comes to language learning, remember, voicing your opinion in the right way is always important, because many people struggle with that. Now, when it comes to group discussions, when it comes to all these ideas where you give a presentation and all that, it's not about the courage, it's about how you convey your thought. Even if you're scared, even if you know that all the people sitting in front of you are delegates, well versed in the topic, it's all about what you have got to give during that presentation. Today, when it comes to the English language journey, the platform, the tutors, and even the teachers, we have a lot of people who are qualified. But it's also about the creativity, conveying things in the best possible way. It's not about speaking with speed, exhibiting your skills when it comes to the trainers. It's about how well you can be dedicated. How can you productively help a learner? It's not about just growing and reaching a particular point. So whether it's group discussion, whether it's one-to-one training sessions, or whatever you are interested in, you know where you stand, you know your level. You get the guidelines from a particular person who has got the authority to correct you, I mean a tutor or a trainer, and then after that begin working. There is no use wasting time or always sticking to the already visible patterns, already practiced patterns that are not helping many people. The next point is about joking and mocking. Now, we all love passing comments, right? And we pull each other's legs when it comes to friends. But there's always a boundary. It's okay if the other person understands you, even if the other person standing on the other side understands you completely. I think there is a fine line between mocking, poking, passing comments, criticizing, damaging, sabotaging a personality. Today we say, don't make fun of a person by their physical appearance. Of course, we have been speaking about a lot of things today. As motivational speakers, as teachers, also as counselors, and even as learners, we all share our experiences, variety of experiences. Every comment that you pass is not a joke. Everything that you try out to make a group laugh or to make a person laugh is not necessarily a joke. It cannot be considered as a joke when it crosses the boundary. Now, as a child, as parents, it is your duty to entrust this responsibility onto the child. Saying that there is a fine line, it is like a thin thread which can snap and break any relationship. So tell the child that there is a fine thread between mocking and poking, and even sometimes mocking and joking. Because whenever you say something, if you know that the person is getting hurt, there are people who are sadists and they just enjoy that low face or maybe the drooping face of another person. And of course, when it comes to the other side, being a listener or being a person who feel bad with all these remarks, it can happen to anyone. I think you should know the intention of that person. If you know the intention of that person, you will also keep a boundary. You may not prefer listening to that person all the time or taking it in. Even before learning, you have got to set your mind, and all these points can be taken into consideration. Maybe you have got parents who guide you, who encourage you, who also help you with everything, not just the formal learning process, even with your personality and character, but just analyze. It's a blessing to have people like that in your life. But when it comes to certain situations, today I'm coming to that point, I think a lot of people in the present generation go through a lot of stress because we are living in a highly competitive world. It's not just because of the technology, but the demand is so high. It's critical. Sometimes we tell the children, if you don't pass with 95%, sometimes 10%, you're not going to get into a good college. The need of the hour is projected in such a way that if you don't do it, that's the end of the life. Okay? So it's like you give this dead end to the child. It's not like that. I have seen a lot of people who are senior citizens of our country, or there are a lot of people who are already into this language learning journey. I have 2 learners like that who are taking sessions from me, almost crossed 60 years of age. There are people who want to learn, who are productive, who are constructive, who don't necessarily pass comments. But at the same time, I'm telling you, there are people who just pass comments saying that today's generation is good for nothing. See, whatever is practiced today is considered to be modern. Do you agree? But that will become part of tradition After 10 years, after 15 years, everything becomes outdated. So once upon a time, whatever was considered to be modern has become traditional now. Look at the strain and stress that they go through. The working hours have increased because that is the demand of the cost of living. It was not like this before, maybe 10 years back or 20 years back. The demand of the hour is such that you have to maybe toil for longer hours. You may have to get used to smart work. You may have to get used to a lot of things. And today, as elders, I think it's not wise for the elderly people to always say, today's generation, they have everything. There are a lot of people who are struggling. There are a lot of people who are prone to diseases. There are a lot of people who are running the families beautifully. You don't know anything about it. But it's always good to not generalize, right? Because as a trainer, I learn a lot of things from people who are younger to me. Okay? From people who are even older to me. So that is my attitude. If it's constructive, I learn from them. So it's not about a particular generation. It's about what the individual sitting in front of you has got to give you. So that is important. Happy learning, and I hope all these pointers help you.